So last year, 2018, I had the great privilege of going to Super Booth in Berlin. And while I was there, I saw this synth and I got to play this synth, and I was absolutely in love and I couldn't stop thinking about it the entire trip. I now have that synth on my desk, so let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Actually, really quick before I jump into this thing, I don't actually own this synthesizer. Do I wish I owned it? Hell yes I do, but I don't. Black Corporation, after seeing my Deckard's Dream video, hit me up and asked me if I wanted to check this out before it's actually released. So I have one of the few of them here with me, which is crazy. I'm so stoked to try this thing out. But they sent it to me, no obligation in terms of saying like only positive things or negative things like that. So this is literally just my opinion on this synthesizer, but they did send it to me in case of those of you who are wondering if that made any sense. That sentence was awful. I don't know how long I'm going to have with this thing because I'm in LA and they're coming to Synthplex, which is in a couple days, I believe, or the day of this video. I'm not really sure when I'm going to release this thing. But yeah, if you're at Synthplex, definitely check it out. If you're watching this afterwards, I have links to all the stuff down below. Check it out. This thing is crazy. All right, let's jump into it. So the Kijimi to me is an amazing example of the possibilities of what analog can actually do. Most analog synths, I'm kind of impartial just because I feel like, I don't know, they get kind of boring. It's the same wave shapes, the same type of typical modulation. Yeah, it's just your average synth. But when you take something like a Kijimi and you add a ton of modulation, which is something I love about my Oberheim expander, is the amount of modulation you can get out of an analog synth. So this has a ton of modulation and a ton of really cool and unique features that make this sound like no other synth. You can get this to do some really weird, crazy stuff. And to save your time as well as my time, I'm not going to go and list off every single knob and whatnot, because you could just look at a picture and figure that out. I'll also leave links down in the description below to the website and another video that they did at KnobCon where they talk a little bit more about this if you're really interested. But check their stuff out, super cool. But what I do want to talk about real quick before we get into some of the sound are 3 awesome features that I find about this thing. And no, it's not just limited to 3, but these are probably 3 of my favorite. First off, this mod matrix. Man, the way it works is really cool. The amount of destinations you have and the amount of sources you have is really cool. You have, of course, your entire row dedicated to velocity, entire row dedicated to aftertouch, VCO2 going to a couple places, also ADSR2, LFO2, and LFO1. And the way these cool little switches work is basically you have positive, negative, or bipolar. So mod matrix, that's one thing I really like. Number 2, LFOs. And that's, they're, as you would expect, right? Your rate, a bunch of different shapes, and attack and decay, which is awesome. The way these work is with this switch down here, which I really enjoy using, which is basically one switch will activate these. The other one will activate an envelope gate. So basically, as long as I'm holding down a note, the LFO will be activated. As soon as I let go of the note, the LFO will stop wherever it is in its cycle and hold that position until I then again re-trigger the LFO. The LFOs also work in monophonic mode or polyphonic mode, which means either one giant LFO or 8 individual LFOs per voice, which is super sweet and sounds really crazy when you start doing some cool movement stuff, which we'll get into in a second. That was 2, and now 3 is the variable wave shape. I love the way these things sound, and let's just go ahead and jump into some sounds right now. So I got the Launchpad Pro here because it has velocity sensitivity as well as polyphonic aftertouch, so I can actually take advantage of a lot of this stuff, which I didn't do in my Deckard's Dream video, which I might have to make again using this thing because it's really fun. So let's listen to some of the wave shapes. Here, let me set this stuff. Oh, this was a patch I made the day I got this thing. Check it out. Anyway, before I get too carried away, let's see. I'm going to kind of destroy some of this modulation on here. So the wave shapes. I'll turn down volume 2. Oh, and turn off this sync. I have a 1 sync to 2. Cool. So basically we have a triangle. And you can hear it has a little bit of a sizzle to it. And basically, I personally enjoy that. It's not the cleanest triangle, but if you do want a little bit of a cleaner triangle, you just turn the filter down a little bit and you're set. So opening that up, let's cycle through the wave shape, hit our saw, square, and start getting to our pulse width. And this is all movable with something like Aftertouch, so the harder I press, the further it goes through its cycle. And because it's polyphonic Aftertouch, this is really cool because I can play some low notes and then a high note and only move the high note's wave shape or move the low note's wave shape. Oh man, polyphonic Aftertouch is where it's at. This should be like a standard by now. I'm just listening to one oscillator with a little bit of Aftertouch on a variable wave that's analog, and the filter is fully open. This sounds so good already. Let's get a little drifty in here. I'm going to bring up Oscillator 2. Detune it. Wow, dude. Let me turn this down a little bit. Cool, so now let's kind of shape this up a little more. I'm going to turn the filter down and bring our wave shape to something a little harsher. Maybe around there. And let's say ADSR 2. Let's get a little. I also got some portamento on this one. So ADSR 2, let's set it to cycle. Release will be our off time. Attack is our basically ramp up, ramp down. It turns into a trapezoid, and decay is our on time. If I want to do like a, whatchamacallit? Like a saw. So the crazy thing is with the ADSR2, you have, 8 ADSR2s basically, so it's all independent from one another. So this is good for a subtle kind of movement like that. Or if you want to create some weirder sounds. I'm sending it to the pitch of both VCOs. Slow it down a little. We even have Aftertouch for the resonance. Ooh. Let's see if I can find a different tune for VCO too. Ooh. I like this. Your little noise, basically. A little more subtle. Oh, right, aftertouch is going to the resonance. You know, it's another cool thing is aftertouch can be the pitch. Just the tiniest amount. So these are super sensitive. Basically, there's a little notch in the middle, but a little click to the right. All right, let's start messing around with the LFOs. LFO 1, nice and slow. Move the filter around. LFO 2. What should we do with LFO 2? The wave shapes. Wow. That high note. Let's take it up an octave. All right. So sub is down, aftertouch, sub amount. Aftertouch filter. And there's no effects on this at all. No effects, nothing. It's just raw. Actually, this will be a perfect example to hear this. So watch. You hear that it takes a second. So the way this works is I've had other synths where the attack and decay apply to the LFO's depth amount. I'm not sure if this is as unique as I think it is. It's maybe just an epiphany for me. But this attack and decay is actually affecting the LFO's rate, not its depth amount. Right, so it's the rate. So it goes from really slow to really fast over X amount of time, which is really cool. So you can hear it kind of slowly picks up. And the other thing that's really cool is this, which is the gate. Oh, I'm sorry. I had it backwards. So now you hear it really starting to pick up over time. Oh, that is just beautiful. And again, because the LFOs... Ooh, that is mean. Sorry, because the LFOs are polyphonic, they're all like independent from one another, and it creates this crazy, beautiful movement within itself. So watch, we'll say LFOs negative because we have our filter fully open. So some are already fast, while some are still waiting to catch up. It's an aftertouch to negative. So watch this. We can apply that, but I'm going to turn that one down. And this is going to then change how the LFOs act. If I turn this up, we'll really be able to hear it. Let's say. You hear that? So as soon as I let go, it'll land wherever it was last in its cycle of the LFOs. And you can apply this with the attack and decay. Takes a little second. Starts catching up. Getting a little seasick here. Speed it up. amount of modulation you have on this thing is pretty nuts. Syncing the oscillators to one another is really fun as well. You can do some weird stuff. You know what? Let me get rid of a lot of this modulation. Da, 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 da. Alright, so where are we at? Aftertouch. Stop doing stuff. Velocity. No. Oh yeah, another thing. These envelopes are really, really fast. In case you haven't heard what I was just doing right there, I can, like, let's see. Like, it's so fast you can't even really hear it. It's a tiny click. So, because they're so fast, they actually added a multiplier. So you have normal, times 2, times 3, and times 4, which kind of elongates their cycles, allowing them to be a little softer and more pad-like, or really fast like this. And this, it starts getting really crazy when you start cycling the envelopes. Another thing that's kind of cool is that the frequency of the oscillators move in semitones, which again helps find these really nice complex wave shapes when you start syncing the oscillators together or sending oscillator 2 to oscillator 1. So watch this. I'll turn the sync off. We'll go back to normal. This is down. And now, all we're listening to is oscillator 1, but I can send oscillator 2 to it. Turn the drift off. Add a little drift. Make it really uneasy. Yes. Aftertouch. Velocity. Actually, let's go into unison mode. So I'll go to voice, enter, and then mode, unison. So now, basically, all 8 voices will be activated when I hit a key. This is nice. Where do I want it to land? Let's see, LFO will go ramp, filter. Actually, we'll go saw. Aftertouch. Alright, let's get to an unusable sound, and from there I'll probably leave it at that. So let's say LFO2, let's go to the wave shapes. Maybe not as much. LFO2, what do I want you to do? Oscillator, or ADSR2, cycle for me. So the other cool thing is you got noise. Basically, these work in little switches. You got a third volume, 2/3 volume, or 3/3, which is 1 or 1 cup if you're used to cooking, which I am, cooking up some patches right here. So anyway, let's hear where we're at right now. Pretty beefy. Turn our glide up. And another reason it sounds so insane is because I have VCO2 basically affecting VCO1's pitch with VCO2's pitch, but also have VCO2 synced to oscillator 1. So if I turn VCO2 going to VCO1, so you can hear that as I move around VCO1, it actually doesn't change in pitch, and that's because its waveform is being reset every time VCO2 completes its waveform. So this is basically master VCO now, and this is kind of moving within that wave shape, if that makes sense. But what this allows me to do is find these cool sweet spots. Turn up VCO2 to VCO1. Jesus. I'm not even clipping on anything either. My gain station is solid right now. It's just a huge sound. That's the craziest thing about this. So before I go, let's go ahead and get some kind of... This is still... Oh, I just realized that this is actually not unison. This is still polyphonic. So if you take a harsh sound like this, right? The beauty in something like this is you can get some really nice bell sounds. So if I take ADSR up, ADSR 2 to affect the filter frequency, and I kind of tune this down and turn the cycle off. Sounds crazy now, but if you just play this in a higher register, turn glide off. Right in that range. Where I want it to land. Maybe right there. And if these are too fast, again, you can kind of soften them up or make them really fast. Send LFO1 to the filter cutoff. Maybe slowly. Some key tracking off. So let's say VCO2 down, turn up VCO2, and let's unsync it. Get it a little drifty. Set aftertouch to the waveform. Actually, what's moving the filter frequency, let's set it to the wave shapes. But for oscillator 2, we'll do negative. Oscillator 1, we'll do positive. So get some awkward movement in there. Hear those weird cancel out movements. Now let's get really drifty, positive to both. Oh, I love that. Set them both 12 o'clock. weird modulation to the rates. Add some attack to this, make it super epic. Just get it out of sync with one another. Again, no effects. This is nuts. This is just an analog synth. Nothing to see here. You want to hear something crazy? We'll do aftertouch to LFO1's rate, but just a hair. Maybe even to LFO2, but negative. Almost acts as a pitch bend, so when we land there, it just chills. Aftertouch, no resonance. Aftertouch to filter. Oh. Man, talk about an uneasy feeling. You want to land this a little smoother. Just pull back a little bit of modulation. Cycle number 2. I could sit on this, mess with this all day long. Anyway, I don't want to go into, I could be here all day. So, and I don't want you to have to be here all day. So with that being said, I'm going to leave it there. If you enjoyed this video, I'd greatly appreciate the thumbs up if possible. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this as well. If you didn't like this video, give me a thumbs down and let me know in the comments down below how I can make this video better for you to enjoy. But with all that out of the way, check out the links down below. We got some cool merch and whatnot if you want to help support the channel. Also, the affiliate links down there also help support the channel at no extra cost to you. Check out Black Corporation, super dope company, super stoked to have this here with me. Thank you guys again for letting me borrow this and mess around with it for a while. But with all of that out of the way, I'll see you next week, and you already know the drill. That's to share the love, share the knowledge. Knowledge is power. Peace.